always said that I'm not a saint, that I am a work in progress, but I will not be held hostage by my past.
She said that out loud on camera while her name was sitting inside 3.5 million government documents.
Literally demonic human beings that are running the world and don't give a fuck about human lives and enjoy watching people being tortured, enjoy watching people participating in ritual sacrifice of people, and they do it in order to show that you're a part of a team.
Nobody expected the story to turn like this. For years, the internet has been pulling threads from the same dark tapestry. Names, parties, flight logs, friendships that never quite made sense when you looked at them too closely. And every time people thought the picture was complete, something new would appear, reshaping everything again.
You were on the scene and you were powerful. Like, to be honest, like if you're not in those files, it would be an insult because it just means that you were a bit of a loser.
But this time, the focus shifted in a way nobody predicted. It wasn't just about Jeffrey Epstein anymore. It wasn't just about Ghislaine Maxwell. It wasn't even just about the familiar Hollywood names that always circulate around these conversations. This time, the storm centered around two women the public has watched for decades: Naomi Campbell and Oprah Winfrey. And the claim that sent shockwaves across social media was as explosive as it was unverified: that Naomi Campbell had allegedly made comments or was being connected through online narratives and interpretations to a hidden system of influence inside elite Hollywood circles, one that some voices online claimed even intersected with Oprah's media empire and Jeffrey Epstein's social world.
You would figure like, oh,
if that guy's there, that lady's
Clinton's
there.
here. This is fine. Clinton's here. How could this be?
But before you jump to conclusions, here's the truth that gets buried in all the noise. There is no verified evidence that Oprah Winfrey was a recruiter for Epstein. There is no confirmed document showing Naomi Campbell exposing her in any official or legal sense. What exists instead is something more complicated and far more dangerous in the age of the internet. A web of associations, rumors, half-remembered appearances, and emotionally charged interpretations that people are trying to stitch into a single story.
Sarah sent Epstein an email saying, I want to make sure you're aware I'm going on Oprah tomorrow, and she is going to ask me about my debts, the entrapment of last year, and the press about you in January. It'll be quick and at the top of the show, all of 10 seconds, a very small piece. However, I just wanted to make sure that you are aware of this and seek your advice on how you want me to answer.
And once that story spreads, it stops being just a rumor. It becomes a narrative people believe they already know. So how did we get here? How did two of the most powerful women in entertainment end up pulled into the same shadow conversation involving Epstein's world, where truth and speculation blur so easily that nobody can tell the difference anymore? The answer doesn't begin with scandal. It begins with influence. Years before any of these online theories exploded, both women were building completely different empires.
I feel like in a lot of instances, I was deliberately being put through stress.
And they do what's called a salt trap. I didn't know this. Apparently baboons love salt.
Okay.
So they put a lump of salt in a hole and they wait for the baboon. The baboon comes, sticks his hand in the hole, grabs the salt makes his hand bigger, and he's trapped. He can't get his hand out. Now, if he's smart, all he does is let go of the salt.
Oprah built a media kingdom based on trust, emotional storytelling, and access to millions of homes every single day. Naomi became one of the most recognizable faces in fashion history, moving through elite spaces where celebrities, designers, politicians, and billionaires often overlapped. In those worlds, visibility itself becomes currency, and when visibility meets power, connections form whether people realize it or not. That's where the Epstein conversation always becomes complicated.
He could have been working for the CIA. He could have been a guy who was on his own, but also working with them, right? Like a guy that they used, but they never fully endorsed.
Like an asset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a guy who could move money around.
Because Jeffrey Epstein wasn't just a name tied to crime and conviction. He was, as described in multiple investigations, a financier with access to high-level social environments, moving between wealthy circles, academic institutions, and celebrity-adjacent events. And when people revisit those environments today, they don't just see parties, they see networks.
According to an FBI record, Epstein was possibly about to cooperate with the feds right before he died.
But here's where the internet takes a dangerous turn. A network doesn't automatically mean collaboration. Presence doesn't mean participation, and association doesn't mean recruitment. Still, online spaces don't always respect those boundaries. And that's where the narrative began to spiral. Some viral discussions claimed that Oprah's media platform had, at times, given space to individuals connected indirectly to Epstein-adjacent social circles. Others pointed to interviews, charity events, and high-profile gatherings where elite figures overlapped. Meanwhile, Naomi Campbell's name often appears in discussions not because of proven wrongdoing, but because of her documented presence in elite fashion and charity environments where powerful figures also appear. From there, the internet did what it always does. It connected dots without asking whether the dots actually belonged to the same picture.
This is the one that I hate the most.
Yeah.
Because this one scares the shit out of me. Because the fear of, we talked about this yesterday with Roger Avery, the fear of these like literally demonic human beings that are running the world and don't give a fuck about human lives and enjoy watching people being tortured, enjoy watching people killed, participating in ritual sacrifice of people, and they do it in order to show that you're a part of a team.
But the real emotional tension in this story didn't come from facts, it came from perception. Because once people believe a system is hidden, every interaction inside that system starts to look intentional. Every photo becomes suspicious, every event becomes coded, every silence becomes evidence. And that's when the narrative around Naomi Campbell and Oprah Winfrey shifted from questions to accusations in the making, not in courtrooms, but online. And once that happens, truth starts to lose ground. The most dramatic version of this story online claims that Naomi Campbell allegedly exposed behind-the-scenes connections in Hollywood elite circles, suggesting that media gatekeeping and celebrity influence allowed certain figures to move freely between industries without scrutiny. But again, this is where reality and internet storytelling diverge. There is no verified statement from Naomi Campbell formally exposing Oprah Winfrey as anything related to Epstein's network. There is no confirmed investigation making that link. What exists is commentary, speculation, and interpretation of past relationships and industry overlap. Still, emotionally, the story feels powerful to people.
Were you able to track who in your organization made this massive failure and released the victims' names? Are you able to track who it was that obscured Les Wexner's name as a co-conspirator in an FBI document?
Within 40 minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
Because it taps into something deeper than celebrity gossip. It taps into distrust. And distrust spreads faster than facts ever could. To understand why this narrative hits so hard, you have to understand how Hollywood actually works behind the curtain. It's not a single room of conspiracies or hidden meetings. It's an ecosystem. Events overlap. Charity functions share guest lists. Fashion shows bring together investors, artists, politicians, and media figures. One introduction leads to another. One dinner leads to a network. People inside those spaces often move through dozens of environments where they don't fully control who else is present. That's not a conspiracy. That's structure. But when you remove context, structure starts to look like coordination, and coordination starts to look like control. That's where names like Oprah and Naomi become lightning rods, because both represent access. And in stories involving Epstein, access is the most sensitive word of all. But here's the twist that gets ignored in viral narratives. Even investigators and journalists who have studied Epstein's world extensively have repeatedly warned against turning association into accusation. Many names appear in flight logs, guest lists, or social calendars without any implication of wrongdoing. Presence is not proof. Yet online, presence becomes everything. So when clips, screenshots, and fragmented claims started circulating, suggesting that Naomi Campbell had exposed or revealed something about Oprah's connections, the story spread not because it was verified, but because it felt emotionally satisfying to believe. It gave structure to chaos, it gave villains and victims to an unfinished story, and it gave people a sense that they finally understood something hidden. But reality is rarely that clean. If you strip away the noise, what remains is not a confirmed exposure, but a reflection of how modern celebrity culture is consumed.
Character assassination. I've always said that I'm not a saint, that I am a work in progress, but I will not be held hostage by my past. What he's done is indefensible. And when I heard of what he'd done, it sickened me to my stomach, just like everybody else, because I've had my fair share of sexual predators. And thank God that I had good people around me that protected me from this. I mean, right now I stand with the victims. They're scarred for life.
A world where Oprah Winfrey represents media influence at the highest level, and Naomi Campbell represents elite cultural access, both placed under a microscope simply because they exist in the same universe that once overlapped with figures like Epstein. And once those universes intersect in public imagination, separation becomes almost impossible. The emotional weight of this story also comes from another place. People are still trying to process the legacy of Epstein's crimes, the failure of institutions, and the unanswered questions surrounding who knew what and when. That unresolved tension creates a vacuum, and into that vacuum, theories rush in. Every time, because uncertainty demands explanation, but explanation is not always the same as truth. As the narrative continues to circulate online, what becomes clear is not a hidden confession or a confirmed exposure, but something more human, a collective attempt to make sense of power, to map influence, to find clarity in systems that feel too large to fully understand. And in that attempt, names like Oprah and Naomi become symbolic, not necessarily factual targets, but emotional ones, representing media power, cultural access, and the blurred lines between visibility and influence, which is why this story keeps resurfacing, not because it has been proven, but because it feels like it could be. And that is where caution matters most. Because once belief outruns evidence, stories stop being about what happened and start becoming about what people fear might have happened. And fear, once viral, rarely slows down for the truth. What remains now is an unfinished conversation, not a confirmed exposure, not a proven connection, but a reflection of how easily modern audiences can turn ambiguity into certainty, and how quickly the internet can take a whisper and turn it into a world-altering accusation. So maybe the real question isn't whether Naomi Campbell exposed Oprah Winfrey. Maybe the real question is why we are so ready to believe a story like that in the first place. Because in that answer lies a truth far bigger than any celebrity name attached to it, and far harder to ignore. And in the end, what we're really left with is not just names, rumors, or headlines, but questions that still don't have clear answers. Some stories grow louder online, but that doesn't always mean they are true. It only means people are searching for truth in a world full of confusion. If you've watched till here, thank you for staying with me through this deep dive. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think is really going on behind all of this? And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more real, powerful, and untold stories just like this.